The winner of the Booker Prize 2023 is Prophet Song by Paul Lynch.
So the winner is Paul Lynch for Prophet Song. Standing up, giving a hug to people sitting either side of him, clearly emotionally moved.
They put you into a labyrinth for a few weeks. You emerge. Maybe you win the Booker Prize. Maybe you don't.
They break you.
There's a ceremony in London. You don't know in advance if you're going to win or not. There's a lot of pressure in the room. There's 5 other authors. Everyone wants to win it. Nobody will ever speak to you again when you do.
The Samsung Galaxy Tab S9 series Jaipur Literature Festival, where you get things that hopefully make your mind chew a little on the food of thought. And there's lots of food for thought around, but what we thought was we'll get some intimate moments with those who have got a whole generation of people going, yeah, that's the book to read. And today, of course, the one who's literally done that with a Booker Prize to boot, I've just heard him saying that this is something that you're now straddled with. And the reference to death, Paul Lynch, was wonderful, where you said if you die, then it's just that you're a Booker Prize winner. So before, of course, all of that, we'd like to thank you from the bottom of our hearts to actually have made time from your very, very hectic schedule to have had this conversation with us. So thank you very much for that. Paul Lynch is on Jaipur Bytes, ladies and gentlemen, which is, of course, the Jaipur Literature Festival podcast. And very interesting thoughts, but thank you so much.
Well, I was saying to Hernan Diaz that when you die, he'll be Pulitzer Prize winner. You know, that's how it rolls.
That, yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a double-edged sword, is it not? These prizes and these medals that are hung around.
Yeah, I mean, you kind of think there's always a part of you, the secret little ambitious part of you, that thinks it'd be nice to win one of the major book prizes. Then you win it, you think, careful what you wish for.
Yeah. So what's the process? How do you get the Booker Prize? Do you have like a medal that you get to keep all your own? What happens?
Well, you're leaving your house and a car pulls up and you get bundled into the boot of the car and you get taken to a remote location. You answer a few questions. You're blindfolded. They put you into a labyrinth for a few weeks. You emerge. Maybe you win the Booker Prize. Maybe you don't.
They break you.
There's a ceremony in London. You don't know in advance if you're going to win or not.
Dim lights as well.
Mm-hmm.
Dim lights as
Dim
well.
Lights. There's a lot of pressure in the room. There's 5 other authors. Everyone wants to win it. Nobody will ever speak to you again when you do.
But they'll clap.
There's kind of just a, sort of. You know,
yeah. A little small noises.
Small noises, but no, it was magical. It was very special.
Which, of course, is also something that you can use to describe the Prophet Song. Ireland, degenerating into a fascist state and being described so lyrically was a study in contrast. It was beautiful. Where did the idea come from? How did this whole idea start?
My editor and publisher, Juliet Maybe, keeps scolding me. She says there are at least 3 origin stories now that you've come up with for this book. Because the truth of the matter is there's no single origin. You know, a novel comes out of the blind, it comes out of the subconscious, a door opens and something arrives. But it may be containing within it all the things you've been quietly obsessing over for years. So when I was writing the book, started December 2018, it was interesting times. We had Brexit, we had Trump, we'd had this surge to the right of politics across Europe, this sort of nativist nationalism that was increasing. Sure. These were things that were all very, very different than the previous 60 years of liberal democracy. So these thoughts were in the back of my mind. And then you've got all the other things that I just generally obsess over as a writer, which is just the problems of being a human being, problems of human blindness, of trying to live our lives and not knowing the outcomes of our choices, things that are lost, all these sort of things that I quietly obsess over. And so I just melded it.
we live it, and because we're living it, it becomes day to day, it becomes banal.
Yeah.
And then you put it down on paper, and you suddenly realize the magnitude of what is happening. As a reader, of course, you felt sucked in, of course. As a writer, does it affect the way you think? Does it? It's something that's an emotion that's felt by us vicariously, but you're the one who's manufacturing it.
Yeah, I mean, if I don't feel it, you won't feel it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. So there's a scene in chapter 8 that anyone who's read the book will know what I'm talking about. The scene, and I couldn't write that one for about 3 months. I was completely terrified of it. It was blocked. And it was during the lockdown in Ireland, the COVID lockdown. And I was trapped in a house with small kids, trying to think, trying to write, trying to think. And a book asks a lot of you. This book asks a lot of me.
Exactly the point.
And trying to make space for that within that kind of setting was challenging. But I had a dream. I ended up writing an essay about this. I had a dream that showed me how to write. Showed me the way. It showed me how to write that chapter. So what I did is I jumped in the car and I broke curfew. I broke the lockdown and I drove to the country to a house. And in 5 days, I wrote the entire chapter. And I'm a slow writer, but it was all there. Just.
And that's the thing. That's what I was about to ask you. That usually writing does become a pretty solo process for a lot of the writers. But this is it's a collaborative ride down a very steep hill. I mean, you know that it's like we are in it together, even though we're going down, and you do feel, as you said, a part of it. What is your process of writing? Are you a very solitary writer? Do you like locking yourself in?
Oh yeah, the idea of writing in a cafe is I find bizarre. The idea of not being alone, I just don't understand it. For me, I go to a room, I have a studio, I close the door, I put on noise cancelling headphones, I play white noise, brown noise actually is what I listen to, and I just disappear, and I'll do that for a few hours.
It also seems that you get a little overwhelmed by people from time to time. I've been noticing that a little. You need your moments.
Well, the problem when you win about winning the Booker Prize is everybody wants a piece of you.
Yeah.
That's just the reality of it, and I'm not available to the whole world. That's I'm still here. I'm still the same guy I was beforehand. And that guy, he's looking at me going, what's going on here? But I mean, it's a blessing as well.
There's also this thing of what we call the holy cow here, which is that once you're a Booker Prize winner, a lot of people want to be seen with the book. There's a lot of attention around it. There's lots of people who want to know a lot of things. What are your views about talking a little about, talking so much about the book? Because I'm sure you're asked all sorts of questions, some of them coming from me, of course, which I apologize for in advance. But, you think that takes away from the mystique of writing a little? The fact that you have to put it in a dimension yourself because you're asked so much.
Well, what happens betwixt the pen and the page is a mystery, right? So you don't know fully what you're doing when you're writing. You may have a sense of it, but you don't truly know because the result is always richer and more strange than you had imagined. And then later you're asked to articulate what were your intentions, what was going on in your life when you were writing it. And the truth is that when you write, you disappear. Your thinking rational mind, bloop, it's gone. And you are using another aspect of self. So you're then trying to later on articulate what that self was doing. And so you're rationalizing after the fact. And it's fun because you can make it up.
Of course.
And I always answer the same questions over and over again. The paragraph one just is just following me around everywhere. People seem to think it's very amusing, as though I was the first writer ever to write without using paragraph breaks. Many writers have done that. But the thing is I'm always interested in the original question because the original question will spur you on to something you haven't thought about before, and that's fun. And then you can incorporate that later on when you're talking. You're like, and you use that again. It keeps things fresh.
my deep and nuanced research into Paul Lynch, into the second paragraph of Wikipedia, got me to a set of references which also said that if you read Paul Lynch, there will be shades of Samuel Beckett. How does a writer react to being compared?
Cormac McCarthy put it best. He said, the ugly truth is that books are made out of other books. So you cannot unlearn the writers you've read because you are the writers you've read. Your sensibility is built upon the sensibilities of the masters you've absorbed from. And so that's why when I teach at Maynooth University in Kildare in Ireland, and I tell my students that you should read the masters as much as you can. Because when you read Virginia Woolf, what you're getting from Virginia Woolf is the ability to see through her eyes, to see the complexity and the strangeness of life through Virginia Woolf's eyes. That's an extraordinary experience. It's a gift. And once you've absorbed something from her, it becomes yours when you write, because what you're writing is your lived experience or your understanding of the world. And though it may be mediated by 50 great writers that you've truly read well, you're writing into your own time, and so what you write should be yours.
But do you think it's a slippery slope? Speaking in another's voice, the seduction of the crutch.
It's necessary when you start.
Mm-hmm.
If you read Cormac McCarthy's early novels, they're just pure Faulkner. That's just the reality of it.
It's true.
Faulkner, there's a lot of Conrad in Faulkner. Melville is all Shakespeare. This is how it works. It's a conversation.
Apart from Beckett, Cormac McCarthy, of course, is also one of the names that I found on Wikipedia.
We're post-truth now, so none of this is true, of course.
Yes, of course, absolutely. Original voices and all of that, that's very important. Which you did find, actually, but Red Sky in Morning was subject to a 6-publisher auction. How did that feel? And you didn't,
It was amusing because I couldn't get an agent to represent me for a long time. So at one point, the agent of another Booker Prize winner wrote to me and said, nobody's interested in Irish fiction.
Okay. And look where that got him.
Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. Coming from Limerick, did you write a bawdy one about him?
What, sorry?
I'm saying you come from Limerick, which is, of course, another one of those wonderful literary forms that teenagers seem to have loved at one point of time.
Yeah, well, I ran away from Limerick when I was an infant, so I can't say the form followed me around.
There's also the fact that, the education wasn't finished. You also walked away from that.
Yeah, I broke my mother's heart. She's like, what are you doing?
She was a teacher, so...
Yeah, but... I while I was at university, I was also freelancing for a national newspaper in Ireland, and they kept giving me more and more work, more and more responsibility, and I had to make a choice. And I thought, well, I don't particularly care for the degree I'm doing at the moment, and this is amazing.
The chief sub and the spike, did that help in self-editing the books? You were chief sub editor.
I was the deputy chief sub editor of the
deputy
newspaper.
Chief sub.
Yeah. Well, I was editing for years before I was writing.
Right.
So my brain is shaped as an editor. So when I write, I'm already editing while I'm writing. It's a strange process.
There's also the fact that with the coming of the internet, the democratization of art is something where everyone can express themselves. There's blogs. There's so many ways that you can actually appreciate the written word, so to speak. What are your views on the importance of long form, of a book, of words making sentences, then paragraphs, then chapters, and then a whole book?
Well, I think it's interesting because if you look at fiction now, there's a shift towards the long sentence. There's a shift towards blocky paragraphs. There's a shift towards something that's the opposite of social media, that's the opposite of fragmentation, the opposite of the atomization of attention. And so fiction is doing silent battle at the moment. It's saying this is a space for contemplation. This is a space for the building up of ideas without your attention being pulled away. And if you're able to meet that, if you're able to turn your phone off and put it in a safe and lock it in the safe for longer than 20 minutes, if you're able to meet the writer at that level, then magic again becomes possible.
I think there's also with the advent of social media, there's also the delusion of proximity to celebrity, so to speak. What are your views on social media and celebrities being on it?
Personally, I don't really care for social media because I'm very private. This idea of sharing all your thoughts with the world, it seems to me to be highly unusual. we evolved to know about 200 people. That's the size of a tribe, more or less. So this idea that you can suddenly write something and it can be read by a couple of million people, it's a scary power because it can be used against you. Yeah. And so be careful with. You need to be very careful with it. I have accounts just because they're useful for what I do, but I'm not a natural social media person.
Sure. Also, the fact that, the fearlessness of your writing, you are talking about something that's a sensitive topic for a lot of people because there's backlash, all kinds. From Red Sky and Morning to the Prophet Song, has there been a little bit of second guessing because of the reactions that you might guess as far as writing the way you write? I mean,
what makes you think I care about that?
Exactly the point, which is what I asked.
I don't give a damn.
No?
No.
Sensitivity, I think, yeah.
The idea that I would worry truly about what anyone would think about the result would necessitate me not doing what I'm doing.
Sure.
I think that you have to be absolutely pure. I think that if you write looking over your shoulder, you're finished. Because what you're trying to do is articulate something that is essentially spiritual. It's essentially, you're communicating something from the deepest aspect of yourself, it's an authentic act. So if you start worrying about how it'll be met, whether somebody will like it or whether lots of people will like it or not, then for a start, you would never have written a book like Prophet Song. Because if you think about what Prophet Song is, it's a phenomenally dark book.
Yeah.
But it's a truthful book, but it's very dark.
And demanding.
And very demanding, and it does not avert its gaze. It takes the reader and it makes them look at the Medusa. And if you're going to do that, you have to be careful with how you do it. But you would never actually willingly set out to write a book like that if you were concerned about sales, if you were concerned about wanting to be liked.
But is there no concern about sales? Is there no concern about the fact that the stacks need to empty and the stacks need to refill?
That worry comes later. that's you write the book and then you start to worry after.
The fluidity of the process, and then of course the dry prison of an Excel sheet rectangle. But you seem to have sort of managed that dichotomy quite well, haven't you?
That's the power of the booker.
That's part of the booker and the raised eyebrow, which is absolutely wonderful, is it not? But does it also exercise a little bit of, subconsciously, does it also exercise a little bit of weight on you, considering now you're not just Paul Lynch, but you're Paul Lynch, the Booker Prize winner. When you wake up in the morning, you're the Booker Prize winner, Paul Lynch. Is that happening?
Well, the thing is when I write, I want to be the same guy that I was writing before all this.
But is it possible?
I don't know because I'm not getting any time to write. That's the bloody problem. So I'll let you know in 2 years' time, maybe.
But what is next? I mean, of course, there's book tours, there's literature festivals, there's everyone who wants Paul Lynch as the headline because Booker Prize 2023. What's next?
Well, since winning the Booker, I've done over 70 interviews, and that's just
71st.
What's next is more of that. Just lots of travel. But I have to say, it's also a privilege because I've been handed something that's also a role. And I think you have to meet that role. And I'm happy to do that until I've had enough in a year or two, and then I'll pull the shutters down because I'll need to write again. That's just the reality of it. I'm actually here because I'm a writer.
Sure.
I'm not interested in being a celebrity writer or whatever the hell it is you are when you win the Booker Prize.
Sure. But if that is thrust upon you, well,
it's thrust upon you. That's the reality of it.
That is. There's also the fact that it's becoming a world where suddenly there's a resurgence of interest in books, the physical book. so to speak. From the digital to the, there's always been the Kindle debate. There's always been the fact that, the fragrance of the book. Do you think going on, that's something that's going to increase in that sense?
I think there's a definite resurgence in appreciation for the book as an object. There's an increase in the publishing of beautiful hardback editions for a reason. It's because people have realized, in the same way that they've realized that a vinyl record offers something a lot more special than a digital file. When you're reading digital books, you often forget what you're reading, because there's no object, and when you've read them, there's nowhere to put it. And so, whereas a bookshelf is many things. It's a source of energy in your room. It's also it's a source of memory. You look at it and you remember who you were when you were reading those books. You remember what the time of your life, but you also are reminded of the book itself. And so I think that people are realizing these things are important.
For sure. Finally, three words that describe your experience, 3 words that would describe Paul Lynch, the pre-Booker Prize winner, and 3 words that would describe Paul Lynch, the post-Booker Prize winner.
3 words before. Let me see. I can give you 3 words after. What the fuck?
Yeah, that's well. Good enough. That's also something that hits you if you've turned the pages on the Prophet song, because it does, as Paul Lynch has so beautifully said, does not let us, avert the gaze. That forces us to look into the eyes of the Medusa. Probably a good idea to also let our minds dwell a little on what we have seen instead of scrolling away. So, Paul Lynch, this has been absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for being so generous and so giving of your time. When I know
My
that
pleasure.
It becomes a little bit of a problem for you. This has been wonderful. Thank you so much. That's Paul Lynch, ladies and gentlemen. The first book, Red Sky in Morning, the latest, The Prophet Song, and there's about 3 in the middle. So in case you want to turn the pages on that one and see if that provides food for thought, that will be wonderful. This, of course, is Jaipur Bytes, ladies and gentlemen. If you've got anything to say, the comment section is open. Please do. Thank you for watching.